So I'm going to be lining this version of the Summer Maxi Dress because my fabric is a little bit more sheer than I would like it to be. I'm using this really lovely wool dobby, and it's just a little bit too translucent for my taste. I also want to be able to wear this dress in the summer and in the fall and potentially the winter because I'm putting sleeves and I'm making it maxi length. So what I'm going to be showing you in this video is how to line your summer maxi dress. Now, if you're a champion sewist and you have made plenty of things before you've lined them, and that's not a problem, just go ahead and skip this video. You don't even need to watch it. Or if you are making a summer maxi out of cotton poplin or cotton lawn or something a little bit more stable, less translucent, then you can skip this video as well. In this video, I am just going to show you how to line these pieces in the easiest way that I know, the quickest way that I know. So first things first, if you have some clips or pins, grab them right now. And what I'm gonna do is just a little sanity check of organizing all of my pieces, because there are already a lot of pattern pieces to this summer maxi dress. And now I've got fabric and I've got lining pieces and I've got the whole 9 yards. I want to make this just a little bit easier on myself. I am the type of person, I thrive with organization, so if I don't have organization, it makes me go insane. So let's not do that. So I'm just gonna quickly put all of my pattern pieces that belong together here, line them up, and clip them to my actual paper pattern pieces so that when I'm ready to sew with them, I know exactly what they are and which pieces they belong to. So you can skip this part if you don't need the organization components. But yeah, I've just stuck all all 4 bodice pieces together. I'm gonna set that piece aside. I'm just gonna repeat until I've done this for all of my pieces. If you don't have a pattern on your fabric, you can just mark your pieces on the wrong sides and label them with tailor's chalk or an erasable fabric pen. With this wool dobby being what it is and being patterned and everything, I think that the easiest way to keep all my pieces straight and know what they are is to just clip them together. So that's why I'm doing that method as opposed to writing on them, which is what a lot of people do. Okay, so that one's together. And I can just clip this one like that because it's already a nice little packet. And on the pieces that say interfacing, I would recommend that we do that, we take care of that. You don't need to line those pieces when you're cutting them out because they're gonna be interfaced. They're gonna get that stabilization from the interfacing, and they're not gonna need it from the lining fabric. So you do not need to line the pieces that have interfacing. And I also opted to not line my sleeves because I want them to have a pretty little sheer effect. And I also did not line my frill at the bottom. So these are all frill pieces, so I'm gonna set those aside for now. And I'm also gonna set my sleeve pieces aside as well. Okay, first things first. Grab one of the pieces that you are lining, that you're going to line. So the first one I happen to grab is the center back piece. So I should have 4 pieces here, 2 of my sheer fabric and 2 of my solid fabric. And what I want to do is make sure that I align my sheer fabric perfectly on top of my solid fabric, so that everything's going the right direction and everything. And you're matching notches and things that you've cut. And if you want to switch to pins at this point instead of clips, you're welcome to. But what you want to do is put your fabric, your wrong and your lining and your sheer fabric pieces together. And what you're going to do is make sure that your wrong sides are together. And just pin or clip spontaneously on all the sides of these pieces. Okay, and once you've done that, repeat that process for the other piece, the other set. So you should have a mirror image pair that's been pinned together or clipped together. Okay, so I'm over here at the serger, but this could also be your regular sewing machine. And now I'm just going to start serging these two, the lining piece and the main piece together. And just a reminder, you want to make sure your fabric cutting, the cutter part of your overlocker is not down. When you get to these notches that you've cut in the side that are pattern markings, you may want to just mark them with a pin that's far enough out that it won't get sucked into your serger as you go past it. But this will just tell me that that's where my notch was, because it is going to get covered with the serging stitches and pulled in to the serge. So I won't be able to see where my marking was. And since this is for the back piece, it does matter where that marking is because it pertains to the keyhole back. And once you've passed the marking, you can just dig that pin back in a little bit closer. So now I can just keep going down and attaching these linings and mains together. And when I get to the bottom, I can just chain off and clip it. And we're not going to be attaching the bottom. We're going to leave this loose for right now. So then you want to just make sure you go up the other side. So just feel free to readjust and then keep on going. Okay, great. Now I have one piece done. Looks all nice. These pieces are attached together and they're not going anywhere. So now they're one piece. And now I'm just going to repeat this whole process that I just did for all of the pieces that I am lining. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, let's get started by grabbing some iron-on interfacing and cutting our pattern pieces that list interfacing on them, cutting out those pieces and getting it interfaced. So I have some woven iron-on interfacing here that I'm going to use. It's a dark color, which is nice because then with this really sheer wool dobby fabric that I have, you won't see it through. It won't come through. It's rather wide. So I just need to cut a chunk off of it. And if you're new to the world of interfacing, there are so many different kinds of interfacing out there. So many types. Typically for garments, you want a lightweight, fusible. Fusible just means that you can iron it on and go. You don't have to sew it on. If you were going to sew it, if you had sew-on interfacing, you would want to sew it on in a similar fashion to how we did the lining in the last video. Okay, so it does say for the interfacing we want to cut 2 on the fold. So we're going to need to cut 2 of these. And meanwhile, you can preheat your iron if you want to, just to get it all started and heated up, ready for your fusing. As we're going to be fusing this interfacing right after we cut it out. Okay, so I've got one piece cut out. I need to cut out another piece. I'm gonna just grab this piece that I just used and fold it over. This interfacing in particular is a little bit tricky in that it keeps getting stuck to things. And it's difficult to cut too. That's not perfect, but we're gonna go with it. Okay, and then we need to cut a piece for the cuff. We're gonna be doing the cuffs in this, but if you have opted to do the ties for the sleeves, or if you're doing the sleeveless option, the only things that you'll need to interface are the V front panel that we just cut out. So you shouldn't have anything after that if you're doing the sleeveless version. Okay, wonderful. So if we fired up our iron, we can just go ahead and grab a pressing mat or our ironing board and grab a pressing cloth if you have one. This will just make it easier for your ironing. So this is where your fabric scraps come into play. Wow, I really cut this awful. It's okay. We can trim it up and make it look much, much nicer after we've stitched it on. or we've ironed it on. So now I'm just gonna press my iron-on interfacing down. And whatever iron-on interfacing you're using, your manufacturer will tell you what temperature to put your iron at. So you'll just want to keep an eye out for that. Okay, and see how I said we'll straighten that out? See how I've got all these interfaced edges. So now I'm just gonna take a trim, because now that it's actually been applied to my fabric, it's way easier to cut the excess off. Okay, and just repeat this process for all of the pieces that require interfacing. And once you've done all of that, we'll come back and we'll jump down onto the next step of the summer maxi dress.